Hello, this is Mark from the MeTechie channel. Thanks for joining me on this video. You know, it has been a while since I've posted on the MeTechie channel here. I am all consumed with another channel that is my main channel, my music channel, where I teach people how to program synthesizer keyboards and stage keyboards. And that's been a lot of fun because I get to explore music and technology, two things I'm really passionate about. But I really love geeking out on technology as well. So I do plan to post more videos. So if you are considering learning more about your Macintosh technology, even content creation from a technical standpoint, like if you're a course creator, I'm going to be doing a lot of content around what's the best way to teach things or what's the best technology to use. I'll be using Thinkific for my platform for teaching, and I'm using ScreenFlow as my recording and editing software, and I'll be using Apple's Keynote for the content and animations along the way. This particular video, however, focuses not on any of that, but rather on something called a RAM disk, and I'm comparing the speeds of the RAM disk here on my computer, you see it here at the top right, along with, or against, comparing that against with the disk speed of the actual machine itself, the SSD, the solid state drives. The drives aren't necessarily separate, they're actually soldered right onto the motherboard. So I want to compare that speed with the RAM disk because traditionally in the past, in fact, if you want to learn how to make a RAM disk, what they are and why you'd even want one, I have a whole video for that, so I'm not going to go through that on this particular video. But if you want to check out that RAM disk video, I'll put a link up here in the card window, and below the description, in the description, I'll put a link there too. So let's go on with the test here. For testing this speed, I'm using something called Blackmagic Speed Test, which is a free app that you can download from the App Store. You might even be able to download it from some website. The name of the company is called Blackmagic Design. In fact, they've recently created a new tester, which I think tests the frame rates on your computer as well. And that one's, I just loaded that this morning. Let me just quickly mention that since I've already mentioned it. It's called Blackmagic Raw. And it's similar, but instead of measuring hard disk speed or drive speed in and out, it's measuring frame rates per second, where the built-in CPU and then the card, I think it does. I don't know much about it, but I just learned about it today, so I mentioned it quickly. You can check that out on your own. So what I'm going to do here is I'm first going to test the RAM disk. Now, in my other video, I tested the hard drive first, and what we found out is that the hard drive can read and write about 2,000 megabytes per second, something like that. So I'm going to set it up for a stress test of 1 gigabyte, and then I'll select the drive, and the drive I'm going to select is the RAM disk, which is not really a drive. It's literally RAM that looks like a drive and acts like a drive. You can move files to it. You can work with files there. If you created a Word doc and put it over on that drive, it would work and act just like it was on your own hard drive. The difference is it's running in RAM. It's not running on a physical drive. It's running sort of virtually. The danger of a RAM disk is when you shut your computer off, all the files on the disk go away. There's no preserving them. They're virtualized, so it's called ephemeral is the official term for that concept. And I won't go too much further into that other than to say that I'm using my RAM disk mostly today not to increase the speed of the read-write times, although that is another benefit. The main benefit is that it's a nice temporary workspace. So as I'm collecting collateral and different files for, let's say, a video I'm working on, I can move those files in the RAM disk, work with them, save my final project to the actual hard drive where it's stored safely. And then as I restart the computer or shut down the computer, the RAM disk goes away completely and everything on the RAM disk goes away. So it's a nice automatic way of making a temporary cleanup, self-cleaning drive in a sense. And I've been using it for years, and I really love the workflow of that because, as you can see, it keeps my desktop nice and clean. It keeps my environment spiffy. Of course, if you're brand new to working with RAM disks, they are risky because if you put stuff there and then you're not looking around, you lose power, what have you, the files that you worked on are gone. So you got to be careful when using them. But if used correctly, they have a lot of benefit. Okay, I told you I wasn't going to say all that, but here I did. Anyway, let's get on with the test. All right, so right now we have a write speed to that RAM disk at around 4,000 megabytes per second. And the read speed is off the chart, closer to 9,000 megabytes a second. That's really, really fast. 4,000 is fast, 9,000 is even faster. So with this test alone, if you had a large file that you needed to read into your project and you wanted to work with that, save it, manipulate it, let's say maybe it's a video that you're editing, maybe it's something else. Again, be careful, because if you lose power or you restart your machine, for whatever reason, everything on that disk is gone. So I wouldn't necessarily use it for production work, actual live production work, but if you start to get used to it and you start to trust it, which I have done, then it's a miraculous way to work. All right, so that's the RAM disk. So roughly 4 and 8, or 4 and 9, let's say. Now let's stop this test and go to the hard drive. Same 1 gigabyte stress test. This time I'll make the desktop be the target, which will indicate that it's now going to speed test the actual drive of the M1 machine. All right. Still extremely impressive on the write speed. Maybe not as much, actually maybe more in some cases. It's funny, each one of these tests come back with a little different result, but they're generally speaking in the same ballpark. I tell you, this write speed is a little faster than what we were getting on the RAM disk. Now the read speed is about the same as the write speed here, but it's not quite as fast as the read speed on the RAM disk. So the RAM disk is about a read speed almost twice as fast as the read speed here from the drive itself. But the write speed is every bit as good, if not better. So that's interesting. Now, I want to say one more thing about writing to your hard drive. If you are working on something, a project, and you write files over and over and over again to your actual hard drive, there's this concept of the drives have a lack of trim, or that they somehow degrade over time where they'll slow down. And when SSDs first came out, that was a real problem and a real situation where the more you write to it, eventually it would slow down and perhaps even stop altogether. I think that is less and less these days, with the modern drives and the way they've figured out trimming is automatically included now, and these drives just aren't as prone and susceptible to that kind of, wearing out. But if someone knows if this is still a problem here in 2021 or 2022 or beyond, then let us know, because using a RAM disk to write files and work with files is a nice way around that, because RAM is virtual. It's not writing to anything physical. So that's just another side note of some of the things that people talk about when we talk about RAM disks on your Mac. All right, well, that's the speed test. Mighty impressive. The bottom line here and the big takeaway from this video is the fact that the M1 is killer, and the M1 drive that they use, the SSD, the solid state drive, which I assume are chips soldered to a motherboard, is remarkable. Give you an example. In 2019, I did this test with a high-end iMac. The most I was able to get out of that was like 2,300 on the write speed and the read speed. So we're already more than double that here at 5 and 5. So we're more than double what it was just from 2019, and here we are, let's say 2021, so 3 years. Impressive. Anyway, thanks for joining me on this video. If this is the kind of banter you like to talk about, or this kind of geek talk, you've come to the right place. I'll try to do more and more videos coming up. And if I do them in this relaxed format here, where I'm just talking to you and letting myself pontificate and go on, then I will have less editing, and I'll be more inspired to just do the videos rather than trying to fit myself into a square box so that you guys only have the tiny bits and pieces that you really want. You don't want all the banter. Well, unfortunately, you're going to get the banter because I can't help it. But I will put chapter markers for those who really just want to grab and go. I understand that time is money. So I'll put markers to where we actually did the tests, and then you guys can find those markers. And for those of you who want to talk more or think about this more or pontificate with me, then just you can hang out with me on these videos and we'll go long and deep rather than short and quick. All right, thanks for joining me. Talk to you later.